News First, Newsline with Faraz Shaukatali.
And a very good morning to you. This is Newsline, live as always from the Newsfirst studios in Dawson Street in Colombo. And with millions and millions of dollars being spent on the hospitality industry or within that industry and offering a myriad possibilities of employment and all sorts of other things. We've got here a veteran hotelier to talk about all those things and what could be done to help improve. Indeed, is there improvement needed? He's right here with us, Mr. Hiran, Chairman of Jetwing Symphony. Very good morning.
Morning, Faraz.
And it's a pleasure to see you on our program.
Thank you for inviting me.
And obviously, you're one of the prime movers of the leisure or hospitality industry. How is our hospitality industry doing?
Well, if you look at it from the time of 2009 up to date, we have done quite well.
Okay.
We can't complain.
Okay.
You know, we were going on a complete downward trend.
Were we?
Yes.
Okay.
And then since 2009 we've come up.
What
we
was
have
the
done
difference?
better?
Yeah.
I think there were areas that we could have done much better, right? But given where we were since 2009 up to date, I think we have to be quite satisfied that tourism has contributed quite well to the economy.
And what was the essential difference between, why did you pick 2009?
Yeah.
What was the...
Number one requirement for tourism is safety and stability.
Right.
Whatever you do, if there is no safety and stability in the country, it's very, very difficult to promote tourism.
Right.
And I've been through it since 1987. I joined the industry in 87. My father started hospitality in 1973. And, you know, I could see only a downward trend. You know, we come up a little, bang, come up a little, bang. So then when the infighting ended in 2009, that was the time that we really got a level playing field.
Right.
That was the time that we could compete with the international, other destinations in the world. Otherwise, we were always down and down and down, purely selling on price, no confidence, not many youth joining the tourism industry. Now everybody wants to either join the industry or have their own hotel, right? So there is a positive vibe towards tourism now.
So in terms of stability, the incoming tourist is safe?
I think so, yes.
Right.
I mean, compared to most other countries, we provide the safety factor, but there are a lot of areas where we should improve, such as, respect for independent female travelers.
Yeah.
That is something that we need to work on. I think we've worked on it, it has improved, but still there are areas that we can improve on that. Right? I mean, some of the unregulated establishments that are coming up, everywhere it's coming up, right? So that needs regulation, because as I said, safety and stability is the key. And when they go into these unregulated areas as hospitality providers, that safety must be there as well. If they get diseases or if they are robbed or whatever, that can also affect tourism. But beyond that, I think safety factor is very high.
Now, in Sri Lanka, how does the language, is it a barrier? What is it?
Well, I mean, if we are dealing with foreign tourists, our people are able to manage.
Right.
Because being a British colony, right, we are not averse to learning English. Right. Even kids who have not, let's say, learned English properly in school, we can teach them. We have a program called JYDP, Jetwing Youth Development Program, where we get kids from underprivileged areas where probably they have not had proper schooling, and when we start teaching them English, they pick it up.
Right.
They pick it up. I mean, okay, they can't carry on a conversation like this,
right,
but it's good enough for them, good enough for us to go and serve the guests.
Right.
So we teach them English, we teach them hospitality skills, and we give them practical training and put them on the firing line. And they are good. These kids are good. So if they have the love to meet people, talk to people, they pick it up. So I think sometimes we are responsible. If we don't teach them, they will not learn. So we have to teach them first.
And what sort of a market is Sri Lanka for tourism? Is it the backpacker of the world, or what? Because you look at the airlines that bring people in here. There's very few budget or no frills airlines that come here.
Right.
I'll go into that in a minute. But so you find mainly traditional airlines coming in here, and traditional airlines are more expensive generally.
Yes, yeah.
And so, do we have does the availability of the rooms and that price band, does it match with the incoming tourists?
Well, yes, I think we do have what is regulated by the tourist board and approved by the tourist board, which is the 1 to 5 star hotels and the guest houses. We have something close to 23,000 at the moment. And what, in the informal sector, which is probably the hotels or guest houses or homes which are not approved, there's another 15 to 20,000.
Right.
So there is adequate capacity for both ends, high end as well as the, what you call the backpackers or the independent travelers who use the public services and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So there is, tourism grew without a proper plan after the end of the conflict, and now we are seeing 50% of the tourists coming to the informal sector, 50% coming to the formal sector.
Yeah.
The way I see it, that's not healthy for the country. What is healthy for the country would be 20 to 25% in the informal sector, 70 to 75% in the formal sector.
Right.
Why I say that is because some of them may not be paying taxes, some of them may not be properly regulated. So the safety and standard issue that I spoke of earlier comes in again. So these things considered, I think, if we can have a good balance like that, everybody will be happy in the future.
You talk about regulation, and it's that some of these are not regulated. Is this a disaster waiting to happen?
It can. Sometimes the policymakers or the administration is not, either they are incapable or they don't want to take the risk of going and, putting on systems in place, because votes. You have a vote, I have a vote, right? So therefore, if they go in and be too strict, they feel, okay, these guys will not vote for me. So therefore, they just allow things to happen without properly regulating them. I think regulation is not just to stop them. No, give them proper guidelines, proper ways to handle this, so that they will also improve their services and they'll hopefully make more money as well. Not to take them out of tourism, to encourage them to do tourism properly.
So, didn't responsible tourism, responsible hospitality, didn't that take a hit when we looked some months ago with what happened around Mirissa?
Yes.
From the one side, and I was speaking to some of the local people who ran restaurants and so on the beach and had their parties, beach parties and so on. Now, they were a bit rather miffed and put out, because they said, look, the government didn't help us do jack. This is all our own entrepreneurial spirit, and it is mushroomed. And on the back of that, various hotels and so on have also come up. And literally overnight, they were shut down.
Yeah. Well, what happened in Mirissa is a classic example of unregulated tourism, right? They have bars operating, they have various other things operating without being properly regulated. So it was waiting to happen. So luckily, the damage wasn't too serious, right? It could have been much worse.
Right.
So then they were able to bring in some rules and regulations. They took out some of the unapproved buildings, various things like that. That had to happen. If it didn't happen, it would have continued and continued. People would have thought, I can just come and build something. I can do this, I can do that. So those are the things that needs to be properly regulated, controlled, and encouraged people to follow the rules and regulations in the country, so that in the future, these won't happen.
Typically, would would a guest staying in one of your hotels, for example, would they be minded to go and partake or go and have a look and be part of the beach
Yes.
club scene?
Very much so. There is a intermingling, you know,
Yeah.
people who, let's say for example Nigambo,
Yeah.
where we have most of our hotels.
Yeah.
You know, there are lots of restaurants and bars.
Yes.
And they always go out.
Right.
And most of the, I must say in Nigambo, most of the restaurants and bars are properly regulated. It's run well. So people go out, you know, mix with the local community, eat with them, drink with them, and that's what we want.
Yeah.
You know, tourism is going and learning from the, you know, sharing their experiences. They want to meet the local people, see what they do, what their lifestyle is, all of that. That's part of the experiences we promote.
Yeah.
So that's happening, and so that's good.
And how about staff churn?
Turn around?
Yeah, staff would come there and then, you know, you train them and then they say, oh, hang on, it's looking much greener out in Dubai or wherever it is.
We have that cycle going around still.
Right.
We don't try to stop it because the youth that we train, they work with us for 3 to 5 years and they see an opportunity in Dubai, and these are kids who want to go overseas.
They want to travel.
They want to travel, they want to see, and they want to learn new things, and we never stop that. I think it's good for the country as well, that they get an opportunity.
Do you have a sort of system in place that they can go and then come back?
Well, if they come back, if they haven't done anything wrong to us, we always take them back.
Right.
We always take them
You
back.
don't hold the fact that they left you to join another hotel
No,
against
no. If they, because, you know, look, if you and I were in our early 20s, right, we haven't had an opportunity to go out. This is one great way to go outside, you know, meet people, see what's happening and so on. So, yeah.
So, and what about training? Do you have training schools?
Yes.
Or is everything left to the government?
No, there are private sector, there's training, but there, the Sri Lanka Institute of Tourism and Hotel Management finally is doing very well.
Okay.
They have satellite schools, I think in about 7 or 8 places in the country. The main one is here close to us.
Yeah.
So that's working well. A lot of students join now the hospitality industry. As I told you earlier, we ourselves as a company, we train youth. I mean, we have now trained close to 1,000 youth from underprivileged areas.
And is this reflective across the industry? The bigger
No,
players?
some companies do that.
Okay.
Some companies do that, some don't. We do it because we love bringing in.
But you also have the rooms. And
We also have the rooms, yes,
Yeah.
of course. But we also take, now we have taken kids from Muletivu, Kilinochi, places like that, where there aren't that many hotel rooms.
Yeah.
But we just bring them, and because we are the first to open hotels in Jaffna,
Yeah.
we have hotel in Pasikuda, Portugal, so we bring all of them together.
On that note, let's go for a short break. We'll be right back. Don't go away. After all, this is Newsline.
Newsfirst, Newsline with Faraz Shaukatali.
And we have liftoff. It's Newsline again. This morning we are in conversation with Mr. Hiran Kure, a very well-known hotelier, of course. Now then, on our program we take messages live directly from our audience who's out there. And one of these is, here you go, I'll read the question out. What does Mr. Kure think about special comfort facilities provided to foreign tourists discriminating against the locals? Also, decimation of local tourists in the south and in places like Ella. I think discrimination is what he's saying.
I think that's a very good question. There are places that we have seen in Miris, and I haven't seen in Ella actually.
Oh, it does happen to me. I can assure
Okay,
you
were
that.
kicked out of Ella?
Well, yeah. I mean, I went in there and I spoke in Sinhalese because I was practicing my Sinhalese.
Right.
And I weren't very happy, and I will be writing.
They probably thought you were too old then, Faraz.
Well, you know, there's nothing wrong in having a kotu, is there?
Anyway,
Yeah.
I think that's a very relevant question, because there are some places that we have seen ourselves where said foreigners only.
Yes.
Even in Nigambo, I saw 1 or 2 homes
There's
where
one
they say,
right now in the south,
Yeah.
as you're going along on the old road.
okay,
which says foreigners only.
Yeah, so that is, in my opinion, that's apartheid. You know, that shouldn't be allowed.
Yeah.
And that's again something to be regulated. If you are operating a tourism facility, hospitality facility, it has to be, you know, available to all. And if some, you know, of course, the management reserves the right. Because if you're behaving in an unruly manner, whether you're a foreigner or a Sri Lankan, you can be asked to go.
Yeah.
That's a different story. But the welcoming effect must be to both Sri Lankans and to any foreigner. I mean, you know, for Jetwing Hotels, 25% of our business is Sri Lankan, and that's our #1 market.
And why do we have, and this always irks me, the language of choice for me is English.
Right.
Right? So, and when I phone, and it does put me off sometimes because they say, oh, do you want the foreign rate or the local rate? What do you mean? Why is that different?
The Sri Lankan rate is always, now let's say for example, our company, we always maintain a rate for Sri Lankans and residents of Sri Lanka, which is the lowest.
Right.
You know, so we always give that because that is a special treatment that we give Sri Lankans.
Yeah.
You know, so that's the reason why.
But I don't think foreigners get put off by this.
They do, sometimes they do. But I mean, you know, as I said, 25% of our business is Sri Lankan, and they always want make a magirata. You know, I want something special, right? So that's why we always keep that, and we have a great following on that.
And what about this business about how do you react to the tourist who says, well, why should I pay more for the same room, the same service?
Well, we haven't had that problem very much, because most of them understand that you know we are fairly open about it. We don't hide the fact that we give a special rate for Sri Lankans and residents in Sri Lanka. So therefore, we haven't had a major issue. But the bigger issue we face is at the national sites. You go to Sigiriya, you might pay 30. If you're a foreigner, you pay $35. If you're a Sri Lankan, you pay 50 rupees. So then that hurts them more than you know, in a hotel.
It hurts my kids even more.
Yeah, right.
Because
they have to pay the foreign rate. Yeah.
And the other thing is, how are you coping with the runaway exchange rate? What does it do to your business?
Well, in the short term, there was a small gain because you know we luckily for us we have we always contract in hard currency. You know, it was brought in the 1990s under President Premadas's government. They brought in a decree that you know, any contract with a foreign party, you have to enter in hard currency, which is US dollars, euro, or the British pound. Right. We thank God for that. You know, because of that, in the short term there is a gain, but in the medium term, our cost of living is going to go up. And you know, then it's going to hurt us. And also for those who have borrowed in foreign currency for the new developments, that's going to affect them as well because they got to earn dollars to pay back. Right.
There are some nitty-gritty questions along here. I'll just take one, okay? Why do hotels sell a bottle of X purchased at one price for 4 times the amount?
Well, I mean, you know, if they want to see the accounts of a hotel, I can show them. Because it's not only buying for 50 rupees and selling for 200.
It's not like a burger.
Because you have to provide the service, you have to provide the infrastructure, right? That costs, you know, more than that amount of money, and you know, you provide the setting.
Typically, how long in Sri Lanka with its present conditions does what's the time period for return on investment?
Ooh, you know, in a hotel, you know, all our new hotels, it takes at least 3 years before we start making money. To look at covering the investment, it takes 10 years minimum. So it's a long time.
So you need to be in it for the long haul.
Oh yes, I mean, you know, my advice to anyone who wants to get into tourism, hospitality, you know, be prepared for the long term, right? So there is no quick return you can open a travel agency and start making money from tomorrow morning.
Right.
But if you're building a hotel, there is brick and mortar in it, right? There is huge investment in it, and there is no quick return. You have to be.
What about the safety standards of, how safe are these hotels?
It depends how you build it. How?
No, what I mean is, before, and Sri Lanka is rather lax. We've seen, it wasn't a hotel, but we've seen buildings collapse and so on. And then you're looking at these hotels and they're on the beach and you're wondering,
I have to say, Faraz, that most of the hotels that are built by companies that are responsible have been built very well. Proper architects have been used, proper engineers have been used, and I don't think, God willing, nothing will, unless there's an earthquake or something like that, which is beyond our control, but otherwise they're not going to fall apart.
Statistics show that the Chinese are a larger number of tourists compared to the English-speaking ones. So does Mr. Kure think that Chinese is more important than English?
In the future, definitely, because we can't ignore the fact that China is now a superpower, right? And the Chinese will continue to travel in bigger numbers. So I sometimes regret that I am unable to understand a word of Chinese, right? I wish I know more Chinese, and I wish more Sri Lankans will learn Chinese so that they are able to interact with Chinese. But is it going to be more important than English? I'm not sure, because English is probably the global language and will remain the global language of business and trade for at least during our lifetime, or maybe one or two lifelines. But it's nice if more Sri Lankans can definitely learn Chinese as well.
So can we see a jet-wing school of Chinese soon?
No.
No.
We do employ Chinese-speaking Sri Lankans. We also have Chinese people working with us. So we can manage for the moment.
Would you be giving too much of it away if I was to ask you what's your occupancy rates like?
At the moment? Well, most of our hotels do anything over 65% occupancy.
Is that good?
Year round. Yes. Ideally, it should be about 75-80%.
All your GMs are all listening to this.
I hope so.
And so, they're saying, well, chairman says 65, so it's okay then.
No, they know that, the guys who are doing 70 over are doing better.
Right.
I'm saying as a group, the average.
Okay. Do you think we need to get more foreign investment in this industry?
Ideally, yes. Because we need a mixture of both. It's the Sri Lankans who carried tourism during the conflict.
Right.
No one wanted to invest here. Yeah. Only a handful of people, one or two villas or something like that. Yeah. The rest was all Sri Lankan money that went into the development of tourism. After 2009, more people started coming. International brands other than Shangri-La don't bring their own money. They only bring the brand. Right. So it's again Sri Lankan money or somebody else's money. So it's good to have the international brands. It's good to have the local brands growing, and it's a mix. And of course, this country needs foreign investment if we are to develop further.
And okay, another question about what does the industry do to encourage better safety and to encourage more independent travelers, especially female travelers? Yes,
unfortunately, we don't have control over some of the regulatory arms.
Right.
Because if it's the police, if it's other transport or whatever it is, there is nothing that we can do direct, except that we can work with those authorities to further improve. I think one of the things that we as a company have been doing is educating children. It's a long-term strategy. We work with schools because Jetwing has hotels pretty much all over the country now, including Jaffna. So we try to work with the schools and the teachers so that at least the children will be educated. So it's a long-term strategy of having a more civic conscious society. So it's not a quick fix. We don't think it's a quick fix because still people just throw things on the road, do whatever they want to do, They feel that they can do anything and get away. If people are in that mindset, then the the country's law should come into play.
How worried are you as a group about the stability of the availability of, say, power and water and so on?
Well, we generate some of the power ourselves.
Right.
We have solar parks now,
right.
and hopefully we should encourage more of the more Sri Lankan homes to have their own solar energy on the roof and so on. I think if we act responsibly as citizens of this country and not expecting only the government to provide power, we can solve it. But if we expect only the government to provide it, we might run short of power in a few years' time. Yeah. But we know we can, if push comes to shove, we'll generate our own power.
And what do you want the government to do? I sometimes, when I drive around and I see all these apartments and hotels coming up, I shudder. Because I'm looking at the arrival numbers and I'm thinking there's not enough of capacity. Right. What would you like the government to do?
Well, I think there has to be, I'm talking tourism here, I think there has to be proper guidelines given to those who are just joining the industry now. They're just building everywhere. I mean, 1980s and 1990s, if you ask somebody, what are you doing? Garment ekak area. Right. I'm opening a garment factory. Now, if you ask somebody, what are you doing? Hotel area. So everybody thinks, okay, now tourists are coming, I can open a hotel and run it. But there is a lot of money going into it. There is, a lot of things that needs to be developed with it, right? So I think the Sri Lanka Tourism Development Authority must have a system where certain guidelines are given. They do have the guidelines. I don't think many people use it. Right? So whoever who's joining the industry, I mean, all are welcome. Tourism is for all. Anyone who wants to join tourism must be given the opportunity, but do it properly. Because a lot of people still come to us saying, can you help us? Now they have built a hotel and then say, come and help us. That's too late then. Before you build the hotel, come to us. Then we can assist them. If they have built it already,
there's limited.
Yeah, so that's the story.
And as we come into towards the end of our program this morning, what do you say to the youth out there who may be contemplating a career in
tourism?
In tourism,
yeah.
Is there still some sort of stigma?
Yes, unfortunately, sometimes they don't like to serve. It's not an easy thing to go out and serve people. Yeah. Right? So if there is a love for hospitality, if you enjoy meeting people, talking to people, serving people, tourism is an industry. But if you're not, if you're a shy person, if you are a loner, if you don't want to do anything, then I don't think you should join tourism.
Not even in the back office?
Probably in the back office, in the accounting or engineering or something like that, but not in the front line, because for that you have to have that love for people. You must be able to smile for 8 to 10 hours a day, do all of that. That's not easy for many, and sometimes the head says don't do this, don't do that. Then it's a tough one.
But it's a good industry to enter?
Of course, absolutely. I mean, I can't think of anything else I will do after 32 years in tourism. Right. I mean, of course, my father started in 1973, so I was kind of, I grew up in a family, but I can't think of anything else.
And have you reached a plateau, or are you looking to increase and get bigger and bigger?
Not getting bigger and bigger, getting better and better.
Okay.
Is what we want to do, because I think we have a very good model in hospitality. We've shown the world what Jetwing can do, and we like to now take that model into other countries. Some of the countries we think we can introduce this model is like Myanmar, Cambodia, Laos. Those are the countries that we think we have a place, because
So you're exporting brand Sri Lanka.
Exactly. The Sri Lankan hospitality, the culture, values, we'd like to take that across, involve those local communities, work with them, develop them, and that's our strategy.
Hiran Kure, it's been an absolutely amazing half an hour. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Faraz.
And we wish you well, and we're terribly happy that brand Sri Lanka is being exported. you are also exporting brand Sri Lanka around the world, and that can't be bad news at all. All the very best to you.
Thank
That's
you.
the way it was on Newsline this morning, where we were in conversation with Mr. Hiran from Jetwing. Take care, have a great day, and God bless.
News First, Newsline with Faraz.